All right, good evening. It is 7 o'clock, and this is a meeting of the Committee of the Whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
City Council members Brown. Here. Hazen. Hersey.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Miller. Roberts.
Here.
Wu. Mayor
Here.
Marlin.
Here.
All right, so first item on the agenda is approval of minutes from previous meetings, March 11th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve. A second.
Motion by Dennis, seconded by Cherie. Any additions or corrections? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Additions to the agenda. Mayor, did you want to just have that under the presentation, not add it to the agenda?
Just not.
Okay. All right, no additions to the agenda. Public input. I have one public input card here. Are there any others that, I think there's a couple of other people writing some out. Okay, so I'll read this one first. Barney Bryson would like to speak on a bee ordinance. Would you like to come up, sir?
I have to cut this down a whole bunch, and it's not really an ordinance, it's just an issue that we've been having, and I appreciate your indulgence, but I'll go as fast as I can. I'm not talking fast to be disrespectful. My name is Barney Bryson. I live at 2102 Barnes Street. It's in unincorporated Urbana off of Brownfield Road. Mr. John Hall from the County Zoning Administrator suggested I contact Urbana due to the ETJ jurisdiction there. There's some confusion here in Urbana as to whether any attempts that I have done to contact other people. I've contacted Illinois State Department of Agriculture, spoke to Director Pope. I've filed FOIA requests. I've contacted Illinois State Beekeepers Association only to be insulted and accused of being disingenuous. I've contacted the County Environmental Land Use Committee twice, contacted county zoning several times, the Urbana Township office, and the Champaign-Urbana Public Health District office, and several websites, and I've done my homework on this issue. And I want to be really clear, we're not against beekeepers, and we're not against bees. We don't hate bees or beekeepers. The thing that we have an issue with is irresponsible beekeeping. Bees are venomous, and in the right condition they can become aggressive, as reported in a later material, but I probably won't be pulling that material out. I've lived in this house for 26 years, 2 years before the lot where the beekeeper lived was ever developed. Several of my other neighbors have lived there much longer than that. The issues we have had recently, or I should go back and tell you that there's 27 beehives on less than half an acre. Next to my neighbor, she's put 4 more beehives next to a public sidewalk. The little kids can't go back and look at the chickens anymore because you can't walk by the bees on that sidewalk. Other issues are the bee frass. That's their discharge. It gets on cars, houses, windows, campers. If you're drying your clothes outside, they'll get that all over your clothes, and then you have to rewash them. You can't put your dog bowls out. They take over the water in the dog bowls. No bird baths. They take them over hummingbird feeders. The new neighbors next to the beekeepers were warned that if they put up their hot tub, they were going to have a bee problem. The guy that used to own the house was had a hard time selling the house because people that came to look at it could hear the bees buzzing in their backyard or the neighbor's backyard, and made those comments on the realtor's card. Other neighbors have grandchildren that were stung several times. Once they were playing in sprinklers. They were jumping through sprinklers in the summertime at their grandparents' house and got stung. Another one got stung walking down the sidewalk. Now if they see a bee outside, they run inside for the rest of the day in the summertime. I think it's a horrible way to treat a little kid. The neighbor kid next to the bee hoarder has been stung several times mowing the lawn. The mom got stung once last year, and you can actually stand on their back deck, which the guy that sold the house, you can hear them buzzing back there. Another neighbor reported they don't go out in the daytime because of bees. They stung 2 USCD workers that were cleaning out the storm sewers out there. And the storm sewers, they won't go in to the manhole that's in the backyard where these bees are, and they made a comment to the loud buzzing noise. Now, I don't care about the buzzing noise because I can't hear, but there's just that many of them that it's audible. They've swarmed the hot tub where I can't work on it. They've hundreds and thousands of them on top of my pool cover, dog water, bumping bull feeder, and the other things as I've said. I've been stung about 5 times, 2 times on the neck while taking a nap on my floaty, which people will tell you, don't swat at them, don't aggravate them. I'm sleeping. And I got woke up by stings on the neck. Twice while working in my yard and once while eating dinner on the back porch. My fiance now has been stung behind the knee. She's been stung about 6 or 7 times. I was at a fire conference in Peoria. I got called and her leg swelled up, it turned red, started to burn and itch. The doctor said she had what's called a large reaction to a bee sting. And now she would have to start using EpiPens because that's the indication that she could go into anaphylactic shock. She also has a heart condition. I had her call her heart doctor and ask him about that, and he warned her that the epinephrine that's in that could cause her heart to go into certain palpitations. She just needed to call an ambulance and get in right away. When we confronted the nuisance, the bee hoarder person down there told us, well, we need to buy EpiPens, but they're just a little bit pricey for everybody to go out and start buying them. Fortunately, hers was prescribed to her and she got a good price on it. But to tell other people that they have to do that, I think is a little bit arrogant in my opinion. We shouldn't wear light-colored clothing in the summertime either. We shouldn't splash water or swat at bees. And we've seen her husband come out of the garage doing one of these things, so that's hard to do. We should not. Am I done?
Okay, I move that we give this gentleman another minute and a half.
All right, any objections? All right, you have another minute and a half, sir.
Thank you very much. We shouldn't wear swat bees, and we shouldn't wear scented lotions, oils, or colognes. The most insulting and arrogant of them all was, how do you know they're my bees? 26 years we've never had a bee problem, and I call the guy that built the house, never had a bee problem at all. She blames the other bees. A mile over there, the university has beehives. A mile and a half, there's another beekeeper over there. It's just insulting. And what we're asking, or what I would like to ask, or what I was asking the county, is to look at some kind of either an amendment to a nuisance ordinance. And I'm not saying get rid of them, and I'm not saying disrespect the good beekeepers, but an ordinance perhaps that would restrict or make common sense of the available area and water for bees. And I provided the county these and some of the other ones, and I'd be more than happy to provide any of this to anybody else that would like this information. I know this isn't the proper forum for it, but if you, I don't think I put my address on there. Anyway, if you want to get a hold of me, just feel free, and I'll be more than happy to just talk to you about it and just give you an idea what's going on. I haven't wanted to strike up the neighborhood and get them really aggravated, but as they walk by and see me, they stop and talk to me about the issue. And I just want to try to keep it peaceful in the neighborhood. And we can't do that without city, county, or township zoning. My intent is to file a cease and desist order, but no attorney will touch it without any kind of zoning or anything to go behind it. So that's what we're looking for.
Sir, I
Thank-
just want to clarify, you said you live in City of Urbana unincorporated, is
That's
that
correct.
correct?
That's
Okay,
correct.
all right. And if you'd like, you can, if you have a formal statement, I noticed that you were reading off of some notes, if you want to submit them to the clerk, we can enter them into the record. And if
Okay.
you have any kind of proposal in terms
Okay.
of an ordinance or language that you would like to see, I would suggest that you could send them to the city council for us to look over.
Okay, could I bring those back at another time then?
You can
'Cause I
email
didn't-
them, or you can certainly deliver them to the city clerk, and he'll make sure that we get them.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I appreciate
I
it.
think somebody, a couple of
I'm
people
so-
have some
I'm sorry.
questions for you, sir.
I didn't know
Please
you
sit
were,
down.
I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Eric, would you like to speak first?
You mentioned a number of entities that you had contacted, but I don't remember all of them, and whether one of them was the Public Health District.
Yes.
And what kind of response did you get from them?
She says they have no ordinance or they don't control that. A lot of people were shocked about the number, but she said that they didn't have anything like that, and they don't legislate that kind of issue.
So I've been doing some research. I've been double tasking and listening to you, but also doing some research. So there is regulation of beehives in New York City,
Yes.
and maybe you're aware of that, and it looks as though it works pretty well to address the issues so that you're raising. So maybe there's a model. But I would say in New York City, the public health people are
Did do
also
it.
part of the solution and part of the deliberation in figuring out what the solution might be.
It's $2,000 a day fine if you get caught over the amount of beehives that you're allowed to have
Yeah.
in New York City. I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying
Right.
that's one of the things I read. One of the issues was, from the county level, was that doesn't pertain to Illinois. So the examples I used were from counties and municipalities in Illinois, so that we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel and could maybe work some things off of there. But it's a pretty interesting topic. The Illinois State Beekeepers Association filed a bill last year to make it illegal to sue a beekeeper for bee stings. It didn't pass, but I find that interesting when a report came in to the governor that they were having increased rates of aggressive bees.
All right, Dennis?
Yeah, I did receive the packet that you left at my house, and I did give it to our staff. Carol
Oh, okay.
Mitten has probably had her chance to review it, I believe. And one of the questions that I guess maybe we'd like to have some information about would be whether we could actually influence any ordinances or regulations that relate to our extraterrestrial jurisdiction area and outside the city boundaries of Urbana.
My understanding is that we react when when the county's proposing something in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, but that we do not proactively change zoning in that area. So if you were successful in getting them to put something forward, then we can take an action in support of that.
Okay.
But we don't have, proactive jurisdiction in that area.
Okay. I'm just doing everything everybody's told me to do because I want to say that I at least tried. So, and I understand that position too, so.
All right, are there any other questions? I want to thank you for coming and being so thorough and bringing us information.
Thank you for your
So,
time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Eric?
Marty?
All right, I have two other cards here, both who do not choose to address the members, but ask that their position be entered into the record. So I apologize, the pen is a little light here. So I have Reverend Dr. Ellis B. Underwood and Bishop King James, who would like to register their Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problems. Sorry about that. They're continually concerned about the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problems. Yes. All right. I also have Eldris Melinda Carr, who is continually concerned about the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer issues, equity, and historic impact. Is there anybody who would like to address the Committee of the Whole tonight? All right. Thank you. Next up on the agenda are presentations, and the mayor is going to present with Seti Maria Jackson. CD, sorry.
Well, it's a pleasure to be sitting here tonight. If you may have noticed, the last couple of weeks, we have actually four new paintings hanging on the wall on either side of the city seal, and they were presented to us by Ms. C.D. Maria Jackson, who is a very well-known local artist. It was a wonderful gift to the city. So I wanted to tell you something about Ms. Jackson, and then she might have brief statement to make, and certainly willing to answer questions if you have them. So C.D. Maria Jackson's homeland is Malaysia, where she received a diploma in textile design and art education. She came to the U of I in 1986 to pursue a Master's of Arts in Art Education. She's been a resident of Champaign for over 30 years, was married to renowned artist Billy Morrow Jackson. After Mr. Jackson passed away, she married artist Brian Sullivan. Ms. Jackson has participated in more than 400 art shows, locally, nationally, and internationally, including shows in China, Mongolia, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, and Great Britain. She's an active member of the International Women Artists Association, Malaysia Women Artists Association, and the Angkatan Palukis Kedah, Malaysia. She's the recipient of many art awards, including a 2011 Outstanding Asian American Community Builder from the Asian American Cultural Center at the U of I. More than 500 of her artworks are represented in art museums, private and public collections in this country and abroad. Some of them include the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum and Illinois State Museum in Springfield, College of Aces at the UIUC, Washington Pavilion of Arts and Science in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Wright Museum of Art in Beloit College, Beloit, Wisconsin, the Kedah and Penang State Art Gallery and Museum in Malaysia, the Datang Fine Arts Gallery in Singapore, and Min Long Ceramic and Porcelain Company, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Story of how this came to be is that C.T. and I were both at the opening reception for the art gallery in Busey Bank, and we found ourselves looking at the same painting, and somehow she introduced herself, or I introduced myself, and I said, "Oh, you're the artist who painted the pictures of the presidents associated with Illinois in our council chambers." And the topics, somehow we got on the topic that there were actually 4 presidents typically associated with Illinois, only one of whom was born in the state, but others were here at significant times. And a few days later, I got a message from Ms. Jackson offering to complete the collection in our city building. And she did that, and not only did she do that, she repainted the 2 of Lincoln and Obama so that they all matched. And they're brighter, they're bluer, and I think they're actually liven up the wall quite a bit. So we are deeply, deeply grateful for this gift and for completing this collection. And, this has become now an educational opportunity for us in this chamber. So would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mayor, and the City Council, and everybody here. And I feel so honored to be here to present the paintings, and I hope you like it. And I was very pleased to do all those portraits and have a lot of pleasure doing them. And thank you so much, Mayor, for letting me doing all those portraits. And I'm willing to work with you again in the future. Thank you.
Perfect segue. We now are discussing, CT has offered to do a large painting, 2 feet by 3 feet, 3 feet by 4 feet, of a significant historic building in Urbana. So we're going to ask the Historic Preservation Commission to go through the list of the 100 significant buildings, come up with a short list, and then we'll share that with council and get input on which building we think should be painted and commemorated in a painting. So I appreciate the continued collaboration. And as a token of our appreciation, the official Urbana
good
mug.
Thing.
So while you're working hard, you can have a cold beverage.
You don't have to do this. I mean, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Next one is a staff report, but I'm going to wait for the mayor to sit down before I, does anybody else have a staff report tonight? No? Yeah, don't run.
Yes, just wanted to let council and the public know that the next meeting of the Plan Commission will be April 4th. You will be getting an email regarding that meeting. On the agenda are three items. One is the mixed-use planned unit development at 1007 and 1011 West University Avenue, zoning ordinance omnibus amendment, and the Champaign County zoning map amendment from AG2 to B4, and that's an address at 3804 North Cunningham. And I'll just take this opportunity, if you haven't responded to the doodle poll, to sign up for your briefing on the budget and the upcoming planning projects, please do so. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to the ordinance tonight. We have ordinance number 2019-03022, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, budget amendment number 9, omnibus. And we have finance department.
So it seems like we haven't done this for a few months, so we have quite a long list of items included in this budget amendment. Hopefully you've all had the opportunity to look this over, so I'll just hit on some of the more significant items here and then answer any questions. First of all, in order to provide funding for legal fees related to the ongoing litigation on hospital property taxes, we would be increasing the mayor's budget for legal services by $90,000. We will probably also have additional funding required in the FY20 budget as well. Another significant item here, the city received a generous private donation of $25,000 for a branding project for the city. And so this budget amendment would recognize that revenue and also increase expenses in the mayor's budget to carry out that project.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Can we hold off and let them finish the presentation, and we'll have staff questions? Thank you.
Okay. Next significant item here, there were some changes in staffing. An existing position was reclassified, and the funding source was changed for that. And so we're using some savings from the vacant Public Works Director position to support this position for the remainder of the fiscal year. And then that would be offset by other savings in the FY20 budget. In police patrol, we recently identified an error in a military pay calculation that dates back to 2014, so 5 years ago. And in order to correct that error, we need to budget an additional $31,702. In the fire department, we will increase their overtime budget by $72,000, and I know that's a very large number. This is an unusual year for overtime because of an unusual level of duty injuries, and whenever a firefighter is absent because of an injury, then almost always somebody has to be called back to work overtime to fill that slot. And so there's been an unusual amount of overtime in the fire department this year. That's a one-time expense, $72,000. The only other thing here that might be considered significant is we're making some changes. When we approved the budget for this year, we talked about implementing a vehicle leasing program. And as we dug further into that, I determined that there were better options. That was a good option, but there was an even better option for us, which will involve using financing through the city rather than leasing the vehicles. And so in order to pursue that alternative, we have to reverse some of those changes that were made in the budget for the leasing program. Most everything else on here is fairly small, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Dennis?
Yeah, I was just curious about the one item that I originally was asking about, the city branding donation. Can you tell a little bit about what the intent will be and what's going to be branded? What's the topic of the branding and what's our interest there?
We're still defining the scope of work on that, but it's something that we really couldn't have afforded given our current budget situation, so we're really happy to have this donation for it, but we're still defining the scope of work. But basically, it's it's not developing a logo, it's not that sort of thing. It's identifying our strengths and how to best tell our story in the process for that.
Okay, thank you
So
for
it'll
that.
be a part of our long-term effort in supporting economic development, growth, and in the city.
Yeah, I think that certainly the city should own its own definition of who we are and what we're doing, so I totally appreciate that.
All right, other questions for the Finance Department? I had just a point of clarification. So it looks like there's $30,000 that's been donated to the city. That was, right, 25,000 plus 5 for the trees.
Correct.
And then there's a variety of things that have been reallocated from other budget lines. I didn't add that one up, but the one I did add up was kind of the one-time amount that we're increasing the budget by 193,000. Is that correct?
Yes, most of what's here is one-time expenses, so 90,000 for legal services, the branding donation, that puts us at 115, the other 120. Actually, I would say it's closer to 200,000. Because of
So-
the unusual increase in fire overtime also is a
72,000.
one-time expense.
So I guess my point is this, we worked pretty hard to decrease our budget by about 600,000, roughly, and now we have increase in expenditures of almost 200,000, so now we're down to about 400,000 that we saved this year. So I think it would be good with all of these budget amendments to list how much, even if it is a one-time fee, how much we're increasing our budget for this fiscal year. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't include things that are being rebudgeted from other lines, but I have no idea how much we've actually increased the budget this year. Does anybody, do you have an idea of what?
I'd have to go back through the previous 8 budget amendments and this one.
Sure.
You're talking about how much we've increased it on a recurring basis.
No, I'm
right?
actually
Or-
talking about how much we've increased this particular fiscal
Yeah.
year, even if it's a one-time. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'd be happy to get it for you, but I don't have
Wonderful.
that in my head.
Okay, all right, no problem. Thank you. No other questions for finance? All right, do I have a motion?
I'll move approval. Well, I guess I won't move approval because I keep doing that. I'll move a recommendation for approval to the full council for ordinance number 2019-03-022, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance. This is budget amendment number 9.
Second.
So moved by Jared, seconded by Eric. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that one moves forward. Thank you very much. Ordinance number 2019-03023, suspension of processing and granting applications for Class G1 liquor licenses. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, before you have an ordinance. I'm requesting support for the ordinance that would suspend the processing and granting applications for Class G1 liquor licenses. As I pointed out in my memo, after much reflection, I believe it's in the best interest of the community to bring this ordinance to you. It would direct me as the local liquor control commissioner to suspend the acceptance and processing of applications for Class G1 liquor licenses until we complete the overall review and update of our liquor license, our liquor ordinance in our city code. We began, internally we began looking at it and getting some of the initial outline for the revisions several weeks ago. And that process is going to take several months to do a complete overhaul. The code related to the liquor has, I don't know when the last time it was updated, but there are clearly areas that need to be clarified, reviewed, and just be made more consistent. So it's been a goal of mine to get this done ever since I became liquor commissioner, and so we hope to have it done by the end of the summer. So another thing I would point out is that our current liquor code, and frankly I think the state law on video gambling didn't foresee all the options that have developed over the years, including the placement of video gaming terminals in places like grocery stores, liquor stores, and other venues. And I think it's in the best interest of the community to suspend processing applications until we get the long overdue updates to our liquor code done, and until we clarify really what our best policy should be going forward. The suspension is not going to affect establishments that already possess the G1 license, or it won't affect applications for any other class of liquor license, including G2, which are the video gaming salons. So I'd appreciate your support for this ordinance. And while actually I could have taken this action on my own as liquor commissioner, I really believed it was important to have the support, cooperation of the council on this one.
All right, questions for the mayor? Jared?
So is this going to affect the application of the most recent folks who we approved the Class A for, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay.
Eric, did you have a question?
Would it be possible, I'm going to ask something that I guess might require some staff time, so I apologize in advance, but would it be possible to roll in also some assessment of whether the gaming machines that we have permitted to be installed in the last few years have had any effect, any deleterious effect on problem gambling or related issues? This is a constant concern, and I don't know how to measure it. I'm not a survey person, but I think that in order for us to have a solid foundation for thinking about these issues going forward, if we can get any kind of a read on that would be tremendously helpful.
Sheree, did you have a question or a comment?
I just wanted to know, too, because I know it's about, licenses until they complete the overall review and update of the liquor ordinance. So would this be something, too, that would, would have to be renewed at a later date? Let's say if you want to review it, is this, or you want to review it again? Or is it something that would just go into being part of your duties as mayor?
I'm not sure I understand the question you're asking.
Well, I guess what I want, maybe I'm just not asking you right, it is because you said you could have done it without the council. So I guess my question is, when you're finished reviewing, if this should have to happen again, is it something that we would also vote on again, or is it something that you would just, having voted on it this once, something that you would just do?
You mean rewriting the liquor code?
Yeah.
Well, the council would have to approve the final version of the liquor code because it's part of our city code.
Uh-huh. But as part of your duties as liquor commissioner, I guess what I'm asking is that if the liquor code ever needs to be reviewed again, would you come back to the council again for this, or would
Sure.
it just be something that you could?
No, I
actually
believe the council needs to have a say in this.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just was interested.
And just so, just to remind the public too, the city council, anytime someone applies for a liquor license, the city council has the final vote on that, including the gaming terminal licenses. But as you recall, anytime we have a liquor license, it comes before council, and you vote on that. And that won't change.
Bill?
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. I think it's a little tricky. I think last week, I kind of overthought it, and I think if you just look at it as, does this liquor store look like a bar or a restaurant? Does it deserve a pour license? They weren't going to use it as a pour license. So I think it's worth looking at some of the things that other cities have done to make it more predictable, so that if you're going to apply for a gaming license, you should be an existing business, maybe some term that you've had be in business for a certain amount of time or something like that. And then as far as assessing problem gambling, I think the first step is to get people to do assessments of individuals when they apply for help or make contact with the system. And that's something I've talked to several organizations about, and nobody's really doing it. And there are assessment tools with just a few questions where you can find out if part of somebody's problem, whether it's financial or emotional or whatever, relates to problem gambling. I think more organizations need to be doing that.
Jared, did you have another comment, question?
Yeah, I just had one other comment, knowing that we're reviewing licenses and I'm sure you guys are already doing this, but I would strongly encourage staff to consider our competitiveness in our costs with our competitive neighbor to the west.
We're intimately aware.
One more.
Thank you.
Eric?
Well, I was actually going to move that we cover the mayor's back by moving this to the full council with a recommendation for approval.
Okay,
A
I'd like to
second.
second. I think I'll give that to Shirley. Cherise.
Go ahead.
All right, so that's moved by Eric and seconded by Cherie. So we have a mixture of questions and comments going on. I just want to throw this in because we did just receive a public input card. Alan Axelrod wants freeze and remove addicting, inciting commerce is not how we should seek to improve services in Urbana. And so he is in support of the ordinance. So Cherie, did you have something there?
Well, the main comment that I wanted to say is just a comment based on what I had to study last week for regarding the liquor license thing. And the one thing I noticed with the video gaming and everything is how much of it is concentrated so close to my ward, if not in my ward. And personally, I'm not. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Jared. But also personally, I'm not. I could go with the suspension of all of it right now, and I just because of the fact that I know that we get little revenue from these. I mean, revenue is revenue, but a vice revenue is not necessarily, to me, something to be dependent on. So I just wanted to make that comment. There are so many of these video gaming places that are right in the third ward and very adjacent to. And I think there should be some kind of moratorium on the locations, especially when it comes to where they sit so closely to my ward. So.
All right. Any other comments before we vote? Eric?
So, the reason that I, in the first place, against some pretty strong input from my constituents, voted for, to permit these machines in the first place was because we had a lot of contact from bars and restaurants that said that they were so important to their bottom line that they were likely to consider, and I think credibly likely to consider moving to Champaign. But I would be perfectly happy to see these machines gone from Champaign County. That would, if we could effect that, I think that would be great.
That is not the intent of this ordinance, just to make that clear. I will say, and I will underscore again, this does not impact existing machines in existing businesses.
Bill, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I just remember reading the state law on that. I don't remember it exactly enough probably to quote it, but there is a mechanism where I think 25% of the voters can petition for removal of from any municipality. So Urbana voters would have to do it, Champaign voters would have to do it, and county voters would have to do it to get rid of it throughout. But there also may be other mechanisms, but I do remember seeing that.
Dennis?
Yeah, I'm going to support this. I think that it's appropriate to be selective and to be conscious about the location of the gaming establishments in the community. And I hear Sharice and her concerns for her ward, and I have also individuals in my ward who are very financially challenged in some parts of it, and anything that undermines the financial stability of a family is of concern to the community.
Diane, did you have anything final to say?
Just again, summary, we have 22 locations in Urbana with video gaming terminals. 9 of those are standalone parlors with 5 machines in them at maximum, and then the rest of these are established businesses. And I know one of the concerns when they first went in was concern about any increased crime. There have been absolutely no problems from that standpoint on these. But again, this ordinance is narrowly focused on the G1, new G1 applications.
And I don't think I checked this last time, but Eric, did you say the recommendation was for approval to council?
Yeah, recommendation is to send it to the the motion is to send it to the council with a recommendation for approval.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that one moves forward with no further business in front of this committee. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.